SRW&Co is celebrating its 20th anniversary in 2023. Over the past 2 decades, the company has grown into a reputable regional management consulting firm with 3 core businesses in HR management, consulting, executive education, and HR technology. The ASEAN Global Leadership Program is a custom-designed 5-day program focusing on the 4 key themes of globalization, entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership. The first AGLP was launched in 2009 in collaboration with selected group of reputable university and global business school. The AGLP is aimed at those senior executives working in both the public sector and the private sector across industries.
In 2019, we collaborated with the London School of Economics and Political Science, LSE, to run a first edition of AGLP at the LSE campus. It was a great success with very positive feedback from the participants. A second edition was planned for 2020, but unfortunately it has to be cancelled due to the global COVID pandemic. So it gives me great pleasure to announce the launching of a second edition of AGLP with LSE to be conducted in the LSE campus in London from 2nd to 6th of September 2024. For the 2024 edition, I would like to introduce the 2 Program Academy Directors, Professor Michael Cox and Professor So Estring, who are the same Academy Directors in our 2019 edition. Both Mick and So are great partners and delightful gentlemen to work with. Their passion and commitment, plus their deep professional expertise, supported by their faculty colleagues, is a key success factor in the successful design and delivery of our 2019 edition. So we are excited and very glad to be able to work together again with Mick and So and Professor Constant Locke as well in co-designing the 2024 edition. Now, with that background introduction, I will now leave it to Mick and So to share more information about the program content and agenda. Over to you, Mick and So.
I think what we try to do on the first day, and we've called the first day Strategic Scenarios in a World of Constant Change. But I think we take up 3 things there. I suppose as it's a course about colleagues and friends coming from Southeast Asia, from Indonesia, we also want to ask the question, are we moving into an Asian century or to an ASEAN century? We then move on with one of our brilliant colleagues from the IR department, Jeff Schweroff, an American, who's written on all issues to do with the world economy since the 2008 economic crisis, since COVID, and of course now added to that, the increasing tensions between the US and China and the war going on in Ukraine. And Jeff will provide a brilliant overview of where the global economy is now in an age of geopolitics. And then at the ends of the day, we've got 2 other big round table issues I'm very excited about. The first one is with Professor Linda Yu, obviously from the region, who now lives and works in Britain, been associated with LSE, with Oxford, but particularly with the LSE. And Linda's she was a very popular speaker before, I know, and she spoke on the global economy and the new Asian middle class. And then on the last day, Saul, myself, and Linda will sit around and knock up a really big problem, namely, what is the BRICS? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and what does it mean? It was invented by Jim O'Neill back in 2001, the British economist. It's now taken on, you might say, political and strategic significance. So we really want to debate on the BRICS. In a way, Saul, that then brings me to the next day, which is really on entrepreneurship. Perhaps you could outline the next couple of days in which you'll be more deeply involved, Saul.
The second day is a day which I'm taking the lead on, and it's basically about trying to bring back the issues that we raised about the geopolitical context into thinking about firms strategizing, and with especially firms from the ASEAN region and their strategies. And the day is broken into three parts. The first part is essentially quite a high-level strategy discussion. And what I think the strategies that we want to talk about are, in the light of the changing political environment and economic environment, what areas of strategy should firms be thinking hard about, and what is the latest strategic thinking? So that's the first part of the day. The second part of the day is going to focus more on change. And here we're very interested in strategies for managing innovation and changing technology. And here I'll look at the recent developments in the literature on entrepreneurial opportunities and on scaling and growth. And then finally in the afternoon, because a second characteristic of many ASEAN countries is quite a large public sector, many firms have partial or full state ownership, is to try and get cutting-edge analysis of the latest ways of managing state-owned firms or partially state-owned firms. And his afternoon will be linked to a visit to a company. And I should say that in the morning, the discussion of entrepreneurship is not all going to be just lectures. We will be bringing in a major tech entrepreneur to talk about the entrepreneurial technology side as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Saul. Again, looks fascinating day too. Actually, J3 brings us back to something we've been talking about already and touched upon, really the rise of China and what its implications are. For China, first and foremost. Now there's a new fashionable notion that China is no longer rising, but China is now peaking. The Economist had a very famous cover, Peak China. Is that true? And in the afternoon, what we're going to do, led by Jürgen Hacker, who is one of our great Southeast Asian specialists here, he speaks many of the languages of the region. Very soon, by the way, Daniel is going to do some research in Indonesia itself. So I hope you can meet him when he comes over before our session in September 2024. He's going to be hosting a debate at Asia House here in London on what business in ASEAN future actually looks like, and we'll bring in from that. We're already negotiated with people at Asia House to discuss that, and that will be followed by a networking reception. I'll move on quickly to day 4, if you don't mind, Saul, just to bring us along, because that brings us to something we actually have not yet mentioned, but which everybody is talking about up here in Europe and certainly down in Southeast Asia. The whole question of climate change. What does this mean? What is this going to mean for business? What is this going to mean for growth? What is this going to mean for the use of fossil fuels? What is this going to mean for travel?
So in the afternoon, we're bringing in another LSE expert, Dr. Antti Laira, and we're looking essentially at the implications of digital transformation. And I don't think there's any doubt that the other big issue that will face all firms in the next 5, 10, 15 years, and not only firms, incidentally, universities and business schools as well, it is related to the impact of transformation coming from new technologies. The second part of his discussion is to talk a lot more about what all of this means for work. What Andy will talk about is what skills we have to train our labour forces to in order to exploit these new technologies, and what policies are needed both within firms and by the government in order to prevent employment problems arising as a consequence. So in the morning after, we have Professor Conson Locke, who's a professor of leadership and a real expert on leadership, and what Conson will be talking about and helping to apply is how to make the business leaders, the people who run the companies, resilient. And Conson is going to explain the ideas of leadership agility And then she's going to essentially do some practical applications of it through scenarios. So we're back to scenarios like we were on day one. She's going to take some scenarios and going to take the class through how to think as leaders in a more flexible and agile way.
But in that last session on the Friday, the concluding session is really learning, reflections and action planning. Now, draw it all together. What have we taken out of it? What's the takeaway? We hope that gives you an overview of what we want to do during the week, Daniel, and we'll hand it back to you now for any wrap-up comments.
Yes, certainly. Well, I think thank you very much, Mick and Saul, for that very comprehensive overview, and also giving the background context, why and how we're designing the program content in terms of the selection of the relevant hot topics like climate change. So anyway, so what I'm trying to say that, we have certainly putting a lot of effort to work together, right, drawing on the experience and also the strengths of the 2019 edition, because that was really a good running of the program. And we got extremely positive feedback. And I must say this, one of the program highlights was the tour and the gala dinner at the Houses of Parliament. That was really, quite a memorial experience for a lot of participants in the 2019 edition. I think we're going to repeat that in our 2024 edition. And I think that would be, to me, it's always a bonus cultural experience of sort for the participants, because not every day, that you could get invited or you could have opportunity to visit the House of Parliament and have a fine dining in the House of Parliament, and then we have that privilege of being invited to have that dining experience. So in short, I think we are certainly very confident that the 2024 edition will deliver value and will be able to give another very interesting and valuable learning experience for our participants. And we are glad that we found a good partner like LSE, and also working with you two gentlemen, all right, who are very receptive to a lot of our input in terms of what are the market needs and the client needs, and what's happening in this part of the world. So we are happy, all right, and we are really glad that we are able to make this second edition, going, after waiting for the 4 years because of the COVID break. But again, as I say, all good things are worth waiting for. So on that note, thank you, Nick and Saul, and we will continue to be talking to each other to make sure that we will try to even make this program even better nearer the time of the delivery. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Again, great to be working with you after such a long time, after such a long break. And let's make it even better than the 2019. So we're looking forward to next year, Dan. So lovely to work with you and your team again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed.